Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Week 2 is done and dusted, and your friends here at Power Spike got you covered. dGon alongside Dom and Jamada back yet again to break down the things in the world of League of Legends. Happy Lunar New Year to all of those that celebrate. Dom gets a little bit more of a break since he doesn't have to wake up at 4 a.m. to watch LPL matches.
3.
They are on the break.
3.
Okay, 3 a.m. Sorry, the
Yeah.
extra hour of sleep really matters when you only get 4 hours of sleep or 3 hours of
Yep.
sleep, whatever the hell you get. How was your small break, both of you? Dom first.
It's been good. It's been good. I got to, spend more time watching my team, the Ruddy Sack, do things that I thought would never be possible, which was the goal of this team, right? I didn't think that people would have an accurate perception of us as a team, and turns out they don't. We are far worse than what people expected. So, respect.
Jamada, how was your last week covering Sid Sack?
Good, to actually quote the Ruddy Sack Twitter word for word, bar for bar, because I don't actually have my own opinions. Didn't think it was possible to lose against Bulldog with, mind you, like a retirement home Kasing, love you Raymond, with four former LEC players, an LEC coach, and a millionaire owner. They didn't even make a graphic for the loss. Well, they did, but yeah, anyway, that tweet's funny. Yeah, great. I've more or less just kind of been watching the Ruddy Sack and keeping up with the rest of the regions. I don't technically get a break being in England, but there's less LPL. Obviously, Korea's also on a short break, so slightly less League of Legends to watch overall. It's been a nice and relaxed weekend.
Let's dive into that. I'm glad that you had a nice weekend. Let's dive into that with a segment. We'll get the graphic made called the Sack Check. You guys dropped your series against Bulldog against a 30-plus-year-old in Kasing. What happened, Dom? What happened here?
A lot of bad things. A lot of bad things. I mean, it was tough. I think it was a wake up call for the team because like Yamato didn't like really prep drafts. Like we just thought we would come in and roll over them. Well, at least that was what I heard. And yeah, I mean, it just didn't go like that. So we didn't really like prep. And obviously we want it to be a fun thing, but we still want to like win versus at least most of the team. So losing to Bulldog was pretty sad. I mean, I guess they're not like, I mean, they're no, like, it's not like they are a bad team or we like disrespect them. I mean, their players are higher rated than ours on average in solo queue, but we just thought that we would get over the line with, the fact that we just know how to play competitive more. But yeah, it's going to be, I think, harder than we initially thought. So we're gonna have to go back to the drawing board with our approach and everything because from one aspect, like the content was good, like the stream went well, like it was just funny what happened, like I don't know, everything was good on that end, but we don't want to be like this shit, obviously.
How do you fix that? How do you fix it? Like what is the goal towards fixing
probably like spending like 20 minutes talking about draft before we have official matches could be nice, or like, scrimming more than one time a week could be nice, like this type of stuff.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It just dropping here in round 1 and going straight to losers bracket feels tough. It feels pretty doomed. I mean, everyone was looking forward to the Los Ratones matchup. Like, were they looking forward to that? Do you think they looked past their opponent here?
Well, I mean, I think that the thing is, it's like we want it to be a content team, but if we just lose to the teams, like the real content is us playing against Los Ratones, right? Like that is the content. So if we're like not able to play them in the NLC or not even play Nord, if we're just like losing to like random teams, then we will suffer in terms of content. Like all of our viewership will suffer, like everything will be worse. So like we want to be a content team and we want to be like the funniest team to watch, like the interactions between Europeans and Hums, like you can't even make it up. Like Hums is saying Allahu Akbar, and like Yankos gets like nervous because he doesn't even like know like what that means. Like it's actually just like crazy to see like the interaction. So there is like a very good vibe amongst the team, and it is a really funny team. And I think we have the potential to be like just the most content team because people are the most free to be themselves. But at the end of the day, like we can't be so bad that we like just lose instantly. Because like for example, if we lose next week, that's it. Like our split is over. Like okay, there's no more content because we're done competing until spring. So that's the main thing that I'm trying to like to get through to people is just make sure that we are at least trying hard enough that we're, competitive to some degree, because we can do it. I mean, like, we have players with unique champion pools. Like, we have the ability to play the game. We just need to put in like slightly more work, because if the other teams are, doing boot camps, like Nord is doing a boot camp, they have like 7 coaches. Like Los Rotones is scrimming 5 times a week, and we're just rocking up scrimming like 1 time a week for like less games than they do in one day. We do like 4 games in a day, and we're already like worse than those teams. How are we ever going to compete with them? So we've got to try to make it to the point where we can make good content, but we could also like have fun doing it. So that's just the idea.
All right.
And things obviously
well,
changed. Like, for people that know, we originally were going to take it like super serious, and we had Jack Spectra and Nash, so it was going to be like challenger, AD carry, challenger support that have played together before, and we would have essentially had like 4 former LEC players plus like an up and comer, and it would have been mega serious, like people that have like all played competitive. But at the last second, like, we had the issue where Jack wanted to go to LEC, which is fine, but we had to restructure the roster and like fill this all in, and this was happening in like super late December, when all this happened. So we have to like kind of change our approach to match what we have now, as opposed to what our approach was when we started the project.
all right. Well, we'll see what happens there. I might have to get one of those media passes and hop in to ask those questions right afterwards, because I feel like these are good answers, but the content would have been asking the hard questions right after the loss.
Yeah, I mean,
Not
we
being a
normally
dick about
just
it, but just
flame
being
each
there.
other. We just flame like we just flame each other when we do the press conference. Like, we just like tell Hums that we need to kill him in real life, and yeah, and that's the content. So
Not in game. Got it.
yeah.
All right. Well, let's. I don't know what the transition. Final thoughts after getting a close look at it here, Jamada, in their loss.
Yeah, I mean, just a little bit disrespectful from the Ruddy boys. I don't know what else to say, to be honest with you. From an outside perspective, it's nice also hearing the perspective of Dom and whatnot. But also, I think the correct term is, yeah, it's a good wake up call, because sometimes the ERL teams just end up being like a lot better than you think they're gonna end up like being, especially early on. And I think Bulldog is just one of those teams which they've clicked, and now they've given Ruddy the slap on the ass they need to, like, okay, lower bracket run. Let's actually see it happen. Maybe we get more than 1 scrim a week, right? Get a little bit more content going there. Perhaps just maybe we end up seeing the Los Ratonas Ruddy Sack fated matchup this split. But I'm not sure how likely it's gonna be now, because the losers bracket is long. Like, it's really, really long.
Yep.
To get
Yeah.
to finals from where they are now.
The golden opportunity to get to see it twice. Now, potential to maybe only see it once. We'll see in the future. This has been the Sack Check. All right. Before we dive into Keeper Kick on the hottest topic from last week, it's time to remind you about one of the friends that makes Power Spike go, and it's a long-standing partnership here in Last Free Nation. It's our friends over at AG1. Now, most resolutions are hard to maintain, but AG1 is one of the easiest things you can do for your health and make it one habit that you'll actually stick to. You've heard Dom, Monty, and I talk about how it's been part of our daily routine to promote gut health and lead a healthier lifestyle. It's been so easy for me to use with the bottle, the to-go packages. Again, I just went down to a different city for Lunar New Year. Easy to bring with me and utilize. It has been so great to have to boost my energy, lower my coffee intake, and again, it tastes really good here, as Dom always says, and he reminds you like he's going to right now.
Yeah, I mean, I've been drinking AG1. I've been doing it on stream even. Having a good time, just starting my day with an AG1 as opposed to like a coffee. It actually feels really good. It's just like a good wake up to the system, and it also just like helps with your digestion and everything like that. So AG1 is just definitely something that feels healthy. It feels good for your body, and I enjoy taking it.
Yeah, supports my immune health, and it is a foundational nutritional supplement to my lifestyle, getting fit, getting healthy, and achieving my New Year's goals, which I'm actually getting closer to. I've lost 3 kilos since the start of the new year, and that has to do with my consistency towards a healthy lifestyle, which is linchpinned by AG1. So this new year, try AG1 for yourself. It's the perfect time to start a healthy habit. That's why we've been partnering for AG1 for so long, and AG1 is offering new subscribers a free $76 gift when you sign up. You'll get the welcome kit, a bottle of D3K2, and 5 free travel packs in your first box. So check out drinkag1.com/LFNlegends to get this offer and support your favorite show covering the world of League of Legends. That's drinkag1.com/LFNlegends to start your new year on a healthier note. Thanks to our friends over at AG1. All right, y'all. It's time to talk about the biggest news that happened early in the week. It feels like we've all had takes on it, but we haven't had takes together on it. It's time for Keep or Kick, and we're talking about the T1 bot lane. That's right. The surprise move. They substituted in Smash for Gumayusi, who, quite frankly, didn't look great in week 1, and they got a couple of wins. So let's talk about it here. Keep or kick? Who you keeping? Who you kicking for the LCK regular season? Smash or Gumayusi? Let's get into it. So a couple talking points here. 1, they played a lot of the same champions. 2, this was how Gumayusi got his start as he replaced Teddy. 3, fans were very mad about it, but Dom, I will defend the T1 fans because now that I'm privy to T1 TikTok and YouTube Shorts in Korean, there's been a huge divide between the T1 fan base because so many T1 fans are calling the Gumayusi fans not real T1 fans by not supporting the team.
They aren't, yeah.
Yeah, they have been split, like pretty split, and it's the
how
first
can you
time it's
ever
very
be
different
split?
than other ones.
Like this is why I feel so fucking old when I look at league content nowadays and I look at league esports, because like what happened to like the competition and like the love of the fucking game? Like when did it become this like K-pop bullshit where a player gets benched, the replacement is playing well, and that's like a bad thing? It's like my poor Guma. Then I see like these tweets. I mean, just go look at the replies to Joe Marsh's tweet. Like maybe on some areas it's split. When you read like the posts that get upvoted, it is just like a bunch of fans with like these really like weird accounts where they are like beloved Faker, and it's just pictures of Faker everywhere. And then you just read their comments. They're like, I didn't know this had to be so gruesome. It's like gruesome, bro. Like what do you mean this is gruesome? Like Guma got benched for a couple games and then Smash is playing well. Like what is gruesome about this? This is literally competition. This is the whole goal of T1 should be. And if you're a fan of T1, your priority should be, like, if you're actually a fan, that T1 does the best things possible for the team to win. Like, this is a non-negotiable. And if this is not how you see your team, then you are not a fan of a team. You are just, like, a fan of, like, personalities. You're a fan of a player. But don't call yourself a T1 fan at that point, because the most important thing as a fan is that your team is successful. I don't think that there's any people who are fans of traditional sports sports teams, that if they made a roster change and were doing well with the roster change, people would be like super upset about like, oh man, like, is this a fucking bad change? Like, oh shit, like what about this player's feelings? When did we become like this mentally ill? And this is exactly what I was talking about when I had that drama where people were saying that I'm sexist because I like don't like this type of behavior. It's like, I just think that this is like very weird sports behavior. Like this is like fans of a band behavior, not fans of an esports team behavior. I was watching the whole thing unfold. It's unbelievable to me. And then like, why is it okay that people can just tweet like, Joe Marsh, you need to be beat regularly? Like,
that's not okay. That's not okay.
But why is that? Why am I the person that's saying that's not okay? Like everyone sees it, but then everyone just like strategically is like, yeah, you know, just let the crazies be crazy. Like they just allow this shit to pass, and it's so fucking weird to me. It's like, okay, so let's let's reverse it, right? And say like and say that I was doing this about like player. Like if I was tweeting this about players, people would be like, "What the fuck? Like Dom has lost it. Like this is super unhinged." But then like
Yeah.
when it's done in that community, it's like, God, you don't understand the culture of T1 fans. It's like, oh, it's the oh, okay. So then that makes it okay because it's like it's the culture. Okay, I understand now. There's a difference. Like you wouldn't understand. Like it's okay to have Joe Marsh be beat regularly in this context for probably not even making the decision. Like you think Joe Marsh is sitting there and he's like, yeah, I think we need to bench Guma, like one of our like most brandable players for Smash. You think that that's what happened and it wasn't a coach's decision? You don't think the coaches like sat there and were like, hey, we have this like really good freak AD carry that is playing well, and our AD carry right now is not playing well. Let's try our really good freak AD carry that I don't even watch LCK challengers, and this guy was on my radar. People were telling me like, yo, this Smash kid is fucking insane. Like even if you don't watch challengers, you should just know that this kid is fucking crazy. Like people were telling me that. So like, why is it such a ridiculous thing that this guy gets played? Like, what do they want to do with these types of talents? Do you just want like the T1 the T1 players to just stay together forever and then just become like worse and worse over time and just be like 70-year-old men who are just like completely geriatric going like 0 and like fucking 35 in game score over the course of LCK every split, and people will be like, yeah, I get to see them still play? Or do you want the team to try to make efforts to improve? Like, what do you need? The old team had more firepower. I think what they're trying to do is add some firepower. Gumayusi is stable and he's good in certain metas, but right now, like, there's a lot of Ezreal being played. In other leagues, Corki is being played. You see Kaisa showing up. Zeri is a champion that shows up specifically in LCK. That doesn't show up much elsewhere, but that's something that Guma is always bad at. So all the champions that Guma has been bad at are now like in the meta or like fringe in the meta. His champions are not specifically good. Caitlyn, Xayah, these types, Senna, these types of champions are not particularly good right now. Aphelios, Jinx. So why not try the guy that actually could help your team win more now? Like, I just don't understand why this is like such a controversial decision. And it just, yeah, like I said, it just makes me feel like I'm an alien in this scene because I've been here for so fucking long and I don't know when it changed to have this be like the standard. Like, why are there so many people that think that this is just like normal behavior?
And that's why I wanted to start off with what I did. I'm telling you, there is a change. There is a change that is happening because before it was way more of what you're talking about in terms of people saying, oh, this is T1 fandom, this is part of our people, blah, blah, or they would just ignore it. There are so many upvoted, commented likes on Korean social media, on Korean shorts, on the Korean boards, in fighting and trying to correct the behavior of that, saying exactly what you just said. And so just correcting it where it needs to be corrected. It is good. It is positive. It's trending in the right direction. Obviously, in English, to Joe Marsh, that stuff needs to continue to be called out. But the T1 fan base is shifting. There still is that subsect of we're fans of the player. We're fans of what was it? ZOFGK only. And okay, I guess we will get behind Dog FK, but now it's too much change. Like the fans are correcting that closer, way more than what we've seen before. Now, Jamada, what do you make of these changes so far? Both, you can go in the fan direction, go in the play direction. What do you make of it so far?
I mean, I agree with a lot of what Dom just said, right? Less passionate on my end, and with a lot less anger. Anger I could only kind of hope to achieve one day. I think on the play side, right? It just makes perfect sense. Smash has been a complete freak of nature in CL. Like I've been hearing about the guy all of last year as well, because he's obviously playing with Reckless, right? In challenges, and it's a change that makes sense, and B, he's come in and he's played really bloody well individually. So even when you look at the results of not just like, hey, T1 are winning, but if you actually have an analytical brain and you watch how Smash has played, it feels like a bit of a no-brainer to not be mad at it if you're supporting T1, right? So I think this is just very symptomatic of the whole kind of idolish culture that's among the T1 fan.
Oh, dGon just left.
Oh,
Nice.
dGon just straight up left. No problem. he's back.
Nice.
Which I'm not going to comment on the idol-ish culture that T1 fans as not a whole, but like as a collective kind of did used to have. It seems much more split, and in-house arguments seem to be going on about this. But yeah, it's hard for me to even really go in depth because again, it seems like such a no-brainer to me. If you support T1 as an organization, this should be a change that you should be kind of happy with given the results. Yeah,
I mean,
that's
also,
where I'm at.
I would say the T1, like they kind of did it to themselves with like the branding of Zio FGK, and then also the stuff that they've done with like the messagings. Like I don't know if you've heard about this, but it's like they have like ways where you can get like access to like Instagram stories, or you can like somehow like message the players. I don't even know if the players like run that shit or if somebody else like runs it for them, but they are like developing a parasocial relation
Yeah,
consciously with the fans, which I think leads
yeah,
to this.
yeah. I definitely agree, and I think it makes it a lot harder to make decisions like this in the future if backlash is something you genuinely like factor in. But then also again, to me, I think you divide your fans a lot more than you probably need to, which, depending on how you feel about sort of esports fandom, uh, is something that more times than not you want to avoid, right? Um, so yeah, again, it's just very, very strange to me. I'm a little bit too like traditionalist. I think much like you, Dom, to ever really see this as an issue. And the issue of the reaction is, uh,
I mean,
yeah,
look, I can get
it's
it.
boundary to me.
I can get it if they were like moving Smash in and he looked bad.
Yeah,
And it's like, okay,
yeah,
he's bad, but he's a rookie. Like maybe he has more upside and the team thinks like it's good. Like I can understand why there would be an issue there in fans' minds. But where I don't see how there could be an issue when Smash was just like fucking insane. Like when they put him in, I was
yeah.
like, God damn, this kid is like, he was aggressive. Like he was playing super well mechanically, like very good late. Like, damn, this guy looked so good.
The
So
only thing the only thing for me, which, and this is such a minor point, was that there seemed to be like no announcement about it happening from T1's end,
yeah,
which I think
because they're
also,
literally
Yeah.
afraid.
yeah, and I agree. I think it was in part because they were kind of afraid to announce it, right? Um,
Well,
and
yeah, I mean, it is, but
yeah,
that's the thing is like they've cultivated a fan base that they are scared of in
yeah,
T1. Like they are really afraid of their own fan base. So the way that they tried to make this thing happen, and I agree that this is a fair point of criticism, is they're like it was just released by other people. Oh, Smash is starting today. And Guma fans, I can understand the idea of like Guma fans went to the venue, but like how many people can actually fit in LoL Park? Like
I
it's
think
not a
it's
super.
three. Well, it's 300 in the arena, but when T1 plays, there are screens outside, like big screens
outside,
outside,
yeah,
and they
yeah,
like fit. They sit and fill the lobby, like they just
Okay.
straight fill the lobby.
So
So it might
like
be like 300 outside and 300
300
inside, or
in.
some
So I
like
think that is
crazy
a
amount.
fair
Yeah.
point that T1 should have announced it earlier so that people don't buy tickets to see a player play that they
Yeah,
don't that is not going to actually play. I think that that's legitimate. But like the reason why T1 did this is they wanted to have plausible deniability. In the case that Smash goes out and ints, they would have been like, yeah, Guma just wasn't feeling well or something. Like they were just going to say some random bullshit and then Guma would just come back and play the next game. So like they're like protecting themselves, which is like kind of like a
Oh.
pussy approach, I would say, to everything. I mean, and this is something that's even went back to like my own experiences when I had that Bwipo drama um way back where I was misquoted on Korean forums and then it went like super viral in Korean and people were saying that like I said things that I didn't say, like they just mistranslated me or they attributed things that Thorin said to me, and then I was getting like hard attacked. Like I had contact with somebody at T1 through LS and they like weren't. I was like, hey, like can you like correct this or like say that I didn't say these things? And this is the whole reason why I hate T1. Like this was the beginning of my hatred for them, was that they were like too afraid of their own fan base that was like, just sending me death threats, sending my family death threats publicly, by the way. Like it wasn't like they were like sending it in messages and it was like, oh, you're getting like a couple death threats, like you pussy. Like, okay, like man up and like deal with it. Like I'm not somebody to complain about death threats, but it was just like publicly there. It was like just calling me like, slurs because they found out that my last name was Rivera. So they're saying, oh, you're stupider because like you're fucking Hispanic. Like there, and this was all just public, like under my tweet, translated, like just right there. And a lot of those accounts got banned. So if you even go back and you find that tweet, you'll see that there's a lot of deleted messages. The reason why the messages were deleted was obviously if you tell somebody to kill themselves or you say like publicly like racist things or you incite violence against somebody on Twitter, then your account gets deleted, your account gets punished. But there was a bunch of that stuff, and like T1, I was like, hey, can you like correct this at all? Because like this is kind of an insane response, and they're like, actually, can you just delete your video? And the biggest mistake I made was deleting that video. Like I was just too like overwhelmed by that amount of hate, which is why I was like, now I'm just like, I'm gonna be the fucking biggest hater. Fuck all you guys. Like I'm not gonna like let other people dictate how I do my shit online. But the biggest mistake I made was actually like deleting the video and like bending the knee to all that all that stuff because it was so crazy. So this is like consistent with how T1 sees these things. Like they are trying to appease their fan base, and they are like purposely turning the blind eye to like fan behavior, which can lead to the more insane fan behavior in the future, because obviously these people feel comfortable acting like that. Like it is okay within the T1 fan base to go tell the owner that like he needs to be beat daily under his tweet, or like saying that like this guy is a fraud, or putting xenophobic remarks. Like putting all this stuff right under Joe Marsh's tweet is like acceptable behavior. Like or it's not to the point where T1's like, you know, we don't want these types of like reactions. Like they don't want to say anything negative against their own fans. And I think that that leads into this whole culture, because those people feel accepted acting the way they do.
Yeah. And that's why at the top, I'll say it last time, I kind of feel like the shame and the responsibility of the fans to hold the other fans accountable is starting to happen in a way
That's
that we
good.
just haven't seen before.
That needs,
and it is
that,
good.
that needs to happen. And I'm happy that it's actually gotten to the point where people are just like done with like the crazy amount of stuff that you see, because it is unhealthy, and it will snowball out of control if it already hasn't.
Yeah. Going back to the original question, because that part was important to talk about.
Yeah.
When it comes to LCK regular season, because the way that a lot of LCK teams look at LCK Cup is the matches in between during this group stage was like a test area. Where are we for week 1? Let's put in substitutes for week 2, because we had about 4 or 5 substitutes come on in. And now that there is opportunity to go to the international event, I think that helps as well. But none of the stats, none of the games played, those don't count towards LCK history. That's why Faker's still on 999 games, a 420 KDA, all that stuff. That's 666 wins. Crazy. Yeah. So I think they were using it for then, but it's all prep for LCK season, which goes to MSI and goes to Worlds. Who do you think, who do you keep, who do you kick in terms of that? Do you feel like this was just a slow start from Guma and maybe like a reality check for him? Or do you feel like Smash was so crazy in that Ezreal game, because I feel like the second series he had way less to do, that he might actually be the starter moving forward?
I mean, from my perspective, I think that you've got what you wanted out of this, like this swap. You see what Smash's strengths are, and I think that the way you do it is you do what's best for the team, like, you know, month to month, week to week, however you want to do it. But in the season, it's like we have very capable substitute in Smash. So if the meta is suiting, like if we go into, for example, last season we were in like a Ziggs, Ezreal, Kai'Sa, like these types of champions meta. If that becomes the meta, then you just play Smash. Like Guma never wanted to play those champions. And, you know, if the meta becomes stuff that is more like Caitlyn, you know, Aphelios, Jinx, these picks that Guma's really been good at, then you play both. I think you use them both to get like the most out of your team results wise. That's what I think makes the most sense. So I would like to see them try that approach. And also, like, you know, I think that as time goes on, you see if this lights a fire under Guma's ass and he starts like improving, and maybe he picks up those champions, and maybe you just run with Guma from there on out, because obviously you can't underrate the fact that Guma has played extremely well in crucial moments for the team. He was like probably one of the more clutch players on the team. I mean, he was extremely consistent in the team through a lot of like the times where people were playing poorly, right? And you know, right now I think Faker is playing well, but if Guma wasn't on the team in summer, I don't think that like another player would have been able to, you know, compensate for all of like Faker's like bad laning and stuff like that. They probably don't even make it to Worlds last year without Guma. So you have to like really you can't write off Guma completely. You have to, I think, use them both for the strengths that they have.
Jamada.
Yeah, I feel like a bit of a fraud. I'm kind of tailing Dom on everything tonight. But
Okay. That's what I figured you're going to do. So I'm going to change the question here for you.
Yeah,
who do you start against GenG this week? Do you start
Oh.
Smash or do you start Guma?
Ooh, I mean, based on what I've seen over the last, you know, the week 1 against week 2, I'm probably starting Smash, to be honest with you. I don't see a reason not to, other than if you really want to like crutch on, hey, Guma shows up like big games, important games. That's it. Smash is a little less like, you know, tested at the LCK level for that. That's like the only argument I could see, but everything else aligns to start Smash for me as the GenG AD, or as the team against GenG.
And then Dom, I'll throw this one back to you to close it up here. If they lose game 1, or even if they lose game 2 after winning game 1, do you put Guma in, or is it just smash the whole series?
I mean, I don't see why you would even. I think you use smash the whole series because this is what you
Yeah.
want. You want like him to play a big game that doesn't matter. Like this game really doesn't matter, right? Like if you think about the reality of the situation, they're already guaranteed that they're going to be like at the top of Group Baron. You know, they're 1 or 2 guaranteed. Why would you not give Smash a chance to play in this match? Because you're going to move on to the next stage. Group Baron has already lost, right? Like, or Group Baron has already lost. Like, they're going to be having to play the play-ins anyway. So you don't gain anything from really winning, and that's the perfect opportunity to get Smash experience in a game that feels like more tense and just a harder game in general. See how he plays under that type of pressure.
Yeah, very, very interesting kind of decision for T1, Coma, the rest of the whole staff to make. For those of you that were saying, oh, well, T1 were hiding who they were playing against, that's not how it works. Like, you have to put the roster in the night before. So we as a casting team knew who was playing, what was coming in. But obviously, we're not allowed to say. We weren't going to say because that's not our place. Eventually, it leaked out. And then fans in the arena started getting upset. That's when all the tweets started going out. It was crazy. There was in the sign there. I don't know. Each LCK team has like a saying, just like LPL. They have like their phrase for the season. T1's is B:*ing, being, like they're being like a human being or
What's
being.
the
And I don't.
what's the
I have
colon
no
for?
idea.
I don't really understand it.
I don't know. I don't know. But what they did do for last week is they printed Smash on, like, they had all the 5 starters and Smash like kind of dropped in there, and that in itself was one of the YouTube shorts that was posted and then got huge pushback from the T1 fan base being like, shut up and support the team. If you don't support the team, blah, blah, blah. But it's just kind of funny that it feels like T1 are the organization's put in this very tough position that their fans will react no matter what they do. And so they're now just back to square one. Do what's best for the team and deal with it afterwards. So it'll be very, very interesting and exciting who they decide to start in this big match against GenG. Yes, there are no, I guess, winning group, losing group stakes for it, but positioning in terms of their own group and Group Baron, who they end up playing in the play-in stage, as well as, you know, cutting teeth against one of the greatest AD carries in the LCK in Ruler. Going to be a lot of fun for that Saturday. All right, that is our keeper kick, Smash and Guma. A lot of reasons to side with Smash. Who do you guys side with? Let us know in the comments below. I'm sure that one's going to be a ton of fun to read as we go through this shortened week of LCK. All right, before we move to the next segment, time to remind you about one of our wonderful friends that help the show continue to work, and it is probably the one I utilize the most. It's our friends over at ExpressVPN. I heard something mind-blowing. Did you know that Netflix has more than 18,000 titles globally, but only 6,000 of those are available in the US? You're missing out on literally thousands of great shows unless you use our friends over at ExpressVPN. Netflix hides content from you for your location, but then it lets you change your online location so you can control where you think or where you want Netflix to think you're located. So they have servers over in 100 countries, so you gain access to thousands of new shows and never run out of things to watch. This works with many other streaming services like Disney Plus, BBC iPlayer, and more. It's so easy to use to fire up the app with one button clicks to change your location, whether that's on the PC, on your phone, on your tablet, smart TVs, and I've used it all. I used it in a projector the other day, which was pretty awesome. And it allowed me to watch things that I wasn't able to watch before. It works super fast with blazing speed, stream everything in HD with no buffering, and it's rated the #1 top tech reviewers, or the #1 VPN by top tech reviewers like CNET and The Verge. And don't forget security. VPN allows you to keep your information private and secure by rerouting all your traffic through an encrypted tunnel. Now, again, thanks to our friends over at ExpressVPN, we got you covered so you don't have to pay full price for streaming services and only getting access to a fraction of the content. Get your money's worth at expressvpn.com/Power /PowerSpike. Don't forget to use the code PowerSpike at expressvpn.com/PowerSpike to get an extra 4 months of ExpressVPN free. This one is a no-brainer, especially with how much you surf, how much we've talked about information being used in different places. Protect yourself and get access to different locations using ExpressVPN using the code expressvpn.com/PowerSpike. Thanks to our friends over at ExpressVPN. All right, time for a little bit of fire because we waited for a little bit and we got to see the best team in the West according to standings from Worlds last year. That's right. FlyQuest came on in as part of no longer the LCS, but the LTA North, just the North Day region. And they had a quick 2-0 in their first match. But the everything on fire part was Bwipo before and after. And he went on one of the most epic rants that I've heard in League of Legends, actually, in his post-game interview. We're going to talk about it here with Everything is on Fire. It's the LTA North is on notice to Bwipo. All right. Let's dive into it. So, Jamada, did you watch this live? Did you see this one live?
I didn't see it live, but I caught it afterwards, and incredible stuff from Bwipo. I'm not even really sure where to start, to be frank with you, just because it was such an unprovoked moment. It didn't even really feel like it was Jat interviewing. It didn't even feel like Jat's question prompted him to go on the tirade that he did. It was just completely, it was just on his mind, and it felt like he had to get it off his chest.
Yeah. So Bwipo went through a lot of different things here, Dom. He talked about his age and getting up there in age, wanting to be the best, and that's why he continues to play. He then said that teams turned down the request to stream scrims, that they had 2 months to like prep for these interviews or for these games, and they brought this pile of crap in terms of picks, and it was very embarrassing, and he's very upset with the region because he wants to make the region better, but teams like Shopify, who got 2-0'd in that series, brought what they did, and it was not great. What did you make of Bwipo's comments here?
I mean, there was a couple things. I mean, number one, I think that, like, yes, Shopify, like, they kind of got lost in the draft in certain aspects. Like, I don't think they should have blinded Jax, right? But I think the other parts of the draft are fine. I think the idea of, like, enemy team is going, like Urgot, Ivor, and these types of champions, and you outrange them, I think that makes sense, right? Theoretically. So I don't necessarily buy into, like, the fact of, like, oh, this is just, like, objectively a terrible draft, because I think that if you were to look at their champions and it was, like, even matched players that knew how to play all these picks at a similar level, then I think that most of the time Shopify would win. I don't know if Shopify can even win if they draft other stuff, but I think they were thrown off by the fact that they got Skarner first pick most of the time. I would assume Skarner is banned in almost like every scrim. Like, it's banned almost every single time on stage. People are probably not practicing much Skarner because they just think it will be banned. So FlyQuest actually left it up. They're one of the only teams to leave it up. And I think they were the only team to actually beat Skarner in a major region as well.
That's correct.
So I think that Shopify they got lost because of that, and it was like a good curveball by FlyQuest. I don't know. I just thought it was like a really weird response. Like, when I was watching it, I'm like, this is like week 1, day 1, and you got to remember that these like other teams like Shopify, they're not even playing with their fucking support, right? Like, they were probably, I mean, they went to boot camp in Korea, right? So I assume that they were playing with their support when they were in Korea.
They were.
And then
They were.
Okay, so they're playing with their support in Korea. Then they're having like a sub come in, so they don't even have like they haven't even played with this guy like much going in, so they're at a disadvantage there. And then it's like, why would Shopify be streaming scrims when like they're probably honestly expecting to probably lose versus FlyQuest, right? Like, even though you want to win, you're going to try your best to win. From their perspective, it's like they need to win the next match, right? Like, they're the one that they really need to win is this next one. And by like, sure, maybe for a team like FlyQuest that does everything like better than you, like they don't really mind streaming their scrims because they feel like they're going to like win anyway, and they don't have like as much to hide. But Shopify might need to like hide certain picks in order to make sure that they can win in this next match and like go as far as they can possibly go. Because if they lose this like if they lose the next week, they're done, right? Like their split is over that early. So in my mind, it just seemed like very weird to. It felt like punching down in a way, and I don't know. I didn't really like it. I don't think that it was like that. It made a ton of sense what he was saying. Like, I mean, they're just in a different position as a team. So if I was their coach, I wouldn't want to stream scrims either. Like, I wouldn't be like, oh, us streaming scrims is somehow going to benefit us. I think that when you're like winning, you probably have like, you know, more freedom with stuff like that. But when you're losing, you really want to like try to like focus on just performing. You don't want to do things that are like, I don't see what their advantage would be if they were suddenly streaming scrims, besides for potentially like leaking the stuff that they might actually be good at to other people. So I just thought it was like really like strange and unprovoked, and I don't know why like everyone backed it so much. Like everyone's like, wow, this is amazing, thank God. Like I get it's like hype, but it just seemed really out of place to me, at least.
I love that, because now that you brought some context in there, I feel like I also too got lost in the hype of the flame and making North America great. And it's like, yeah, that's what we want. We want to make the region an amazing region. And but you bringing logic to it, being like, what do we get out of this? It's, you don't really get anything. Jamada, what do you make of some of those points?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I was very like stuck on the streaming aspects. I think that like the streaming scrims thing to me is just very, very. I think it's a unique thing that's obviously happening with like Ruddy Sack and Los Ratones, and it's hype. But the point of those two teams, as an example, is more or less
Not
to be
to
content,
win.
right?
Like,
And it's not really to win, right?
yeah.
And whilst it's a nice in concept thing for like the community to see, hey, let's get the community involved in terms of like seeing how the overall process works of actually trying to improve game to game, and like what you're looking for in scrims in terms of against, you know, kind of the more stoic slash corporate answers you'll normally get on like a broadcast interview against that kind of stuff. Um, yeah, in like actual tier one, the likelihood of scrims getting streamed, I think, is very low, and I don't actually see what the positive applications are to it, other than like
Yeah.
like other teams get to see what you're doing in practice.
Yeah, and I would say that also, if you look at how everything you know transpired, when you have a you know, a team like FlyQuest, would they actually be acting this? Like, would Bwipo be saying this if they were losing? Like, do you really think that they would be like that he would be saying this? Like, they have the ability to say this because they are like one of the better teams. But I think what Golden Glue said made perfect sense. Like, I think that there's a time where you could stream scrims, like maybe in like the super off season, right? Like when the teams did like boot camps in Korea, for example. Because a bunch of teams did boot camps in Korea, like around early December to like mid December, and then they flew back for Christmas. So like when you're playing on a different patch, and you know, like your team just gets together, you want to bring some hype to the team, and you know that's when league content is kind of dead in general. There's not that many people streaming, not much going on. I can understand streaming scrims then. I think when Golden Glue said that, it made perfect sense. But like right now, he said it would be a hard no, because yeah, you're in the middle of competition. Like I think maybe if you stream like one scrim a week, I think it could be fine. But I don't think that this is something where we should be like blaming teams for not streaming scrims at this point. And then also people are like, oh, well, Los Ratones does it. Like Los Ratones doesn't compete in tier one. Like they don't compete in a tier one level. And I think that in general, people are like kind of being deluded by that into thinking, like, I've seen a bunch of comments saying that like Los Ratones is better than like 5 or 6 LEC teams. It's like, I don't know what people are watching that they like now think that like when you play in tier, because we saw the players that dominated EU Masters and like were on the best team by far are all struggling in the LEC right now. Like they all look like shit in the LEC. So like there's a level difference here that I think people are not acknowledging enough of. And yeah, I just think that it's like going down a super weird path. I just don't understand why people think that he's automatically right about this.
His thinking, I think, is you can open source the answers for draft, because if you stream it and you make a draft mistake, someone, if not many voices on the internet, will be like, you idiot, you shouldn't have picked Jax here, you should have picked blah blah blah. This could be an answer, and you can start open sourcing and getting different information there for it, to at least get the brain thinking for what answers are. Recently, not sure if you guys saw this too.
But
He
like
put out the top lane tier list of drafting, against Cloud9. He's like, this is what you do. This is how top lane works. It's Jace. If it's not Jace, then it's Mbessa versus Cassante, which is good for Mbessa. If you ban the Mbessa, then you go Cassante clearly. And then he like typed it all out. And then Vulcan and Cloud9 social media was like, thank you, Mr. Bwipo. Like, but he feels so confident enough that by tweeting that stuff out, you get answers. You get evolving at least.
I mean, like, sure, in a way, but like a lot of times, like, you're already seeing, like, the teams are already scrimming each other, right? Like, the teams are already seeing what other teams are doing themselves in scrims. So it's like open sourcing it. I don't know if that's like going to be somehow like better than just like, you know, what teams are already doing. Like, sure, like other team, like maybe globally, if everyone was doing this makes sense. But also, it's a meta that's very stagnant in top lane. It's like I don't know if he would be doing this right before he played finals versus like TL, for example. And I just don't. I'm somebody who is generally resistant to the idea that this has to be good. Like, I don't know, if I was a coach, I wouldn't want my team streaming scrims before important matches. Like, I wouldn't want it. And what's weird to me is like, I don't even know, like, it's so weird to have this all come from Bwipo. Like, FlyQuest is like kind of like bandwagoning it, or like they're just like kind of like, hey, like, we're supporting it, like, oh yeah, we want you to stream scrims. But it just feels like it's weird that this just comes out like from Bwipo and not from like the team or something else, like in an interview. It just seems like a very like strange channel for this message to come from.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the perspective on this, like the scrim streaming point, I think is super skewed from like the perception of how it's been going with Los Ratones and with you guys, and how like it's fun to watch that stuff because normally you wouldn't have access to that from a competitive team, but then also it's the added caveat of these two teams are predominantly doing it for content, right? So it's entertainment and it's enjoyable and in some cases educational. So I think the fan reaction to how Bwipo like put across those points is being a lot more positively received because of the content that they've already been exposed to. When in reality, it probably wouldn't even necessarily always play out like that with the like in a world where like tier one teams are streaming their scrims, because it's a completely different setting entirely in my mind. So yeah, I actually do wonder if like how the perception to how Bwipo put across a lot of these points would have probably changed, or in many cases I think been negative, had we not had the path where we've got Los Ratones and you guys and you know, the Nord boys and some of the teams in the dark region doing the same thing, right? Already, I think it's kind of like set a positive reaction precedent to it. And in that case, now when we get these players or individuals like Bwipo saying, hey, we should do this in tier one, it's like it's almost like a softball. It's like safe to say this because you already know that fans would like to see this, right? That's
Yeah.
at least how I see it.
Well, it was definitely whether it was a thought out call out by Bwipo or not. I love the nuance that you brought here, both of you, in terms of why it would happen and why it's not good. For what it was worth, Palafox in an interview with Cloud6e, one of the interviewers and content creators who's been doing stuff for well over at the LCS and now LTA, said, we never said no to streaming the scrims. So, you know, Bwipo just kind of popping off. I will say, though, in his like long tweet about the graphic about top lane meta, which he has tweeted out, someone said, how do you feel about Eastern teams being perfectly fine with blind picking Rumble? He posted FlyQuest destroying the nexus of GenG when Keen picked Rumble. That was a pretty awesome response, even though again that's kind of not the point, but it was pretty good. Bwipo on top of his game, talking smack already. For you fans and friends at home, do you agree with Bwipo? Agree with Bwipo, or not? Because I just feel like this is such a polarizing thing. In traditional sports, you have literally a scout team to practice things because you don't want other teams getting the information and leaking it. Only in esports and kind of league is it where you scrim against other teams because the quality of the scrim is much worse, but is more important than the secrecy of the information. So let us know in the comments, and we'll tag in that one next week and check in on how Bwipo does against stronger competition, because they have their battle against Cloud9 this upcoming weekend.
Yeah.
All right. Final friend of the show that we got to shout out that makes it so easy to do our show and gaming. It's our friends over at Turtle Beach with their new headset, the Stealth 700. The Stealth 700 is the industry's first ever cross-play dual wireless transmitter system. That means you can seamlessly switch between your consoles and PC with just a click of a button, and it gets even better while being connected to your console. The Stealth 700 can also connect to your phone, so you can listen to Spotify, whatever music app you're listening to, taking calls all at the same time. It sets the mood and gets you going, as well as being completely on top of every single thing that you can hear in the game. Crystal clear sound, every footstep, every reload, and every kill that you get in the game. Turtle Beach making the top of the line headsets for you. Again, we use them here over in Last Free Nation. Thanks to our friends over at Turtle Beach. You can hop in as well because you don't want to be left out. Unlike you're left out of the cold with crappy headphones or just using the in-ears, don't worry about it. We got you covered at Turtle Beach. It's time to spend that Christmas money on something you love. Head on over to turtlebeach.com and use the code SPIKE for 10% off your entire order. That's 10% off your entire order at turtlebeach.com with the promo code SPIKE. Helps the show, helps you guys, again, with products that we use every day. Thanks to our friends over at Turtle Beach. Time to get into some contenders for first stand and just fighting for #1 team in the world who have been dealt a difficult defeat in the early part of the season. So yes, the undefeated, which I guess D+, undefeated, BLG undefeated, we don't have them in this one. It's high key, low key, no key with GenG, losers to the bros, Top Esports, who just lost their recent series against Anyone's Legends, and Hanwha Life Esports, who have also dropped not one, but 2 games. Who you high key, who you low key, who you no key on, being top of the charts when we get to first stand and has the best chance of making it to first stand. Let's get into it. All right, so the bros dropped it literally the day after we recorded last week's episode. We're like, damn, they look like the best team in the world. That's why we're throwing T1 in fraud alert, because GenG looks so damn good and everyone else in LCK looks so damn bad. And they get boomed by the bros, not 2-1, but 2-0, where Chobi looked terrible in game 1. He looked a little better in game 2. Canyon looked not good, like very not good in both games. Ruler just didn't get to play. Duro had a tough series. They bounced back with a victory later on. Top Esports, they played a tough series against Anyone's Legends, but with a team that had that much experience, that had all the internationals that they had from last year, they lose 3-1. Didn't look so great. And Hanwha Life Esports, this super team that gets more firepower with Zeus, they're supposed to be even stronger. The rich get richer. Doesn't look that way as they've lost all their hard tests here, as they lost in week 1 and then they lost again in week 2 to D+ Kia 2-1, but they did lose. High key, low key, no key. You got to put one team in each one of those categories. Let's go with our no key team to be a contender for their first stand spot. Remember, only one team goes for first stand. So who do you got here? Dom, let's start with you. No key.
No key. I guess I'm gonna throw Top Esports there. Like when I'm watching Top Esports play, it's really weird the mistakes that they're making. Number one, I think that just in general, the whole team has just lost a lot of direction. Kanavi has been looking individually bad, which I'm surprised about. Like, I thought that he would be just a straight up upgrade to TN, but it feels like normally when I was watching Kanavi, even with bad versions of JDG, it always felt like he knew what he was doing. Like, he had a plan for like how the game was going to play out, and it was like, can his teammates like match that? But now I feel like his plans are not good. Like, the way he's playing individually is not good either. So definitely worried about that to some extent. When it comes to support pairing, I mean, I think that Crisp is obviously not playing well, but Jaculov is also playing worse. So I just feel like the team is just really like dysfunctional, and I just don't see them being able to pick it up at all. It's just very tough to watch them play because I don't see like the direction towards winning with this team. I think they'll probably end up being like anywhere from like 4th to like 6th in LPL.
So not even sniffing one of those upset victories. I mean, it would require an upset for them to get up there. Is it less about the team and more about LPL's level?
I mean, I do think that there are just teams that are just straight up better than them now, right? Like, I mean, when you look at the teams, like they're just worse than AL. I mean, they've lost 2 best of 5s to AL now, and I don't think that those are flukes. When you're watching how AL plays, AL just looks like a comprehensively better team. I think Kale is playing extremely well. I think Tarzan has added a lot to the team. He's kind of just like Thanos in the LPL generally, and I just think that their roster, is performing at a really high level. Whereas Top Esports, I still don't feel like they know how to play the game. And I guess when we go to like the low key and high key, I'll kind of expand on like other teams that I think are kind of struggling with the same type of thing. Like they just need a lot of help when it comes to their own decision making as a team, and those things are hard to fix because it looks like people have different ideas. It's like when they're trying to play for Grubs or Drake, like what does that look like? How are we setting it up? Where are we warding? All this type of stuff feels like they have to go back to basics and really discuss, and it's very hard to fix because they don't just naturally have the same idea. Whereas when other teams had their beginnings in leagues, it felt like that stuff just naturally came into place. Like everyone just kind of knew what that meant. Like for example, I mean, even with GenG, you can see it that like they know how to like play for Grubs. Like they understand like tempo and stuff like this on a high level. And it doesn't matter if they replace players. It's like the team is still doing like similar things. And yeah, they might like people might get caught, whatever. But that seems like players playing individually bad is less of an issue to me than when the team actually doesn't know how to play the game. And it feels like Top Esports has to go back to like square number one, be like, okay, who are we listening to? Like whose idea is correct on how we play for these objectives? Like when we come into like team fights, which player has like the best idea of it? Who's going to like make calls as to like what the overall, like, are we poking before the objective? Are we like trying to engage on them when they walk past a choke? Do we want them to come into us? Like all these types of things I feel like need to be really like ironed out within the team. And I just think that those things are harder to fix than oh, this guy had a bad game, or like Chovy played bad. It's like, okay, Chovy will just play well later on and then they'll be fine.
All right, Jamada, who is your no key?
Yeah, Manoki's also Top Esports. I think it's such a no-brainer. I also think, just to add on, my only real other small point to this as well is I do not think the meta suits Top Esports like at all. More specifically for Cream, I think that his mage play got better throughout last year in 2024, but I don't think it's near the level of the other LPL mids like at the high end right now. And I think, to me, the only way that Top Esports band-aid that, and I think then, go on to fix some of their other macro issues, specifically around team fighting on the objectives, is like either they try to just break the meta and play what Cream like used to kind of play into a lot of these majors, or they just sit there and sink, because I can't see Cream keeping up with the rest of the mid lane pool if it's gonna stay on, Victor, Oriana, and Azir and things like this. I think Azir was eventually possible, but even then, I think compared to the other mids, he's not at the right level. So for me, I think it's try to force Cream where you can on his melee mids again, and try to actually actively fight around the objectives more based on what Cream's like lane stay is, and play more towards through the mid lane. Jackie is touch it like always hit or miss, right?
Yeah.
I'm not super happy with how Jackie's played as a whole individually. He's obviously had the one super rough game too, but yeah, I think it's not really a super big contender to place anyone but Top Esports in the no key for me. I think they have loads of issues they need to iron out, which are gonna take time.
When it's this dramatic of like a meta shift, a mid lane drop, and it requires you to either have a worse mid or play a different style, is there another team that comes to mind that just played their own style despite the meta not fitting it? I mean, because when I
T1?
think about it,
Yeah,
T1
like what?
like I mean just T1 in every world.
yeah.
Okay.
They've shifted entire metas, right? I mean, the
Yeah.
2023 World Championship
Messiahs.
was literally carrier in the bottom lane, like swapping it to double range and stuff like this. So
Yep.
yeah, T1 is a really good example. Um, I mean, I think the
I mean
best.
FlyQuest at this last Worlds.
Yeah, to me, I think the best teams at the highest ceiling, if their roster or their like general philosophy doesn't align with the meta, they just kind of say fuck the meta and they just play what they know they're good at, and they play it to a level that makes like it changes the meta for the rest of the teams around them, right?
Right.
And to me, my guesstimation on the early data that we've got out of top esports is probably that they're going to have to do that. Um, because yeah, I think between Cream's champion pool, also Kanavi just looking as clueless as he has, because I think a lot of, at least on the English like broadcast side, working from last year and the year before, the always narrative was like General Kanavi. Kanavi's like the guy who leads teams, and that guy's been absent for the first two series of top esports as Tenor so far this year. And I yeah, again, not I was never super sold on Crisp as a player, even on Weibo. I don't know if that's necessarily like a super hot take. I think he has insane series, but then like your average Crisp series is really just kind of, you can throw them all away. So I think between Cream's mid pool, to me, like the most important things in top esports right now are like fixing Cream's mid pool or playing towards his more naturally stronger champions. And getting Kanavi and Crisp to work together more succinctly, because if that's not happening, I think those are the most important things in the meta right now. AD is like AD. I don't think we're in an ADC meta like whatsoever. The only important thing is if Jackie Love has a deep champion pool, and we know he does. Like he can make it through a best of 5 in Fearless with his champion pool, so that's fine. Those are the most pressing issues to me for top esports, and if they're not fixed, then they're staying in low key. I can never see them getting out of the LPL to first stand.
All right, let's switch on over to low key then. Not no key, low key. So who's your middling team that you think has a decent chance? Is it Hanwha or is it GenG who have had the losses here, Jamada?
I'm gonna just take the easy answer here and say that the low key is Hanwha, right? I think to me the GenG series against Bro, I I don't want to take away what Bro did, because Bro played a very very good series against GenG and they muted them really well. I just think that my answer still has to, for high key, is probably still GenG. So I think HLE naturally are in the middle. I think that the issues that HLE have run into so far, I think are fixable. So I don't think it's like a horrible thing to say that they're going in Loki here. The loss against GenG was a really rough start to the year, and I think they're going back to the original points we made after that series. I won't say their meta read was bad, but their like final product of their drafts contextually felt a little bit hard to play out, and then GenG just kind of stomped them off good macro anyway. And then right now, losing to DK doesn't really seem like a bad thing, right? DK, I think, have really come out the gates, come out the gate swinging, and I think their meta reads are awesome. Their drafts have been super creative. I think when I was doing my last bits of VOD watching last night, Showmaker's got like 10 unique champions in 13 games or something ridiculous like that. Uh, DK are firing on all cylinders, and they have a very very seemingly intimate understanding of the meta and how they want to play the game, and also a very reactive understanding of what they want to do in draft. So to me, I think that the teams that HLE have lost to so far have made sense, and the teams that they've beat have also made sense. So I'm not super fussed about like their overall performance so far. I think it's just a team has to win, a team has to lose. I think they're, if we're talking about macro, it's been a little. I don't know what strong or not opinions you guys have on how HLE have played, like around objectives and such. I think that's definitely left a little bit to be desired. I think when they lose control of the map and Peanut's not on like a playmaker, then they look a lot worse. But I think that's a narrative that's been going for a little while. So again, I think losing to DK and GenG is fine. I think it's more about how they handle further on into the tournament, because I still expect them to be there. I think they're still very low key, if we're talking in the context of GenG as the other option. And yeah, I can still see them making it. I don't think there's any problems or major problems.
Yeah. So why don't you go ahead and combine both of yours here, Dom, since we're revealing the answer?
Yeah, for me, I have Hanwha Life as my low key. Like, I'm pretty worried about Hanwha Life, to be honest.
Okay.
I think GenG like had like a freak occurrence, but like they've showed me more than what I've seen from Hanwha Life. I feel like Hanwha Life's issues have been way more consistent. I mean, they're just playing like very weird league right now. I mean, you're seeing Viper, who is somebody who's considered either the best AD carry in the world or one of the best AD carries in the world, like drop 2 waves and a plate bot to like rotate to like first grubs, which makes it feel like he's just like listening to team calls or like the team is really over prioritizing things. Whereas when you see like GenG do map rotations, GenG is much more crisp. Like they're like able to understand like, okay, we are going to play for these grubs, and when we play for these grubs, we're going to like full split the map. We're going to four man top. We're going to 2-lane it, and we're going to just like use our tempo to try to like get the top tier 1 playing to the top tier 2, etc. Like their plays have a lot more intention. Where I feel like a lot of times the level that Hanwha Life is operating on is like a much more simpler one of like, are we playing for grubs? Okay, we're playing for grubs. Everyone get here because it could be a fight. And I think that Hanwha Life, like, I think that the fact that they beat GenG in that best of 5 has carried a lot of weight for them. I think they have never really been as good at macro as GenG. I feel like they pretty much got outclassed by them the entirety of the year outside of that one series. And a lot of these problems are still persistent with Hanwha Life, which is why I have GenG just like, still winning the split. So I think GenG still looks like the favorites. They lost to Bro, but that's just like, it's kind of a freak occurrence. And if I was looking at it from a team point of view, I wouldn't be worried about that. That's one where you can really be like, oh yeah, I mean, like we just like fucking inted. All right, whatever. Just don't it next time. Like we'll just go back to our roots. They've showed me more that they know how to play like a team than Hanwha Life has. I feel like Hanwha Life is still figuring things out, and they're just getting through by mechanics. But yeah, I mean, when I looked at the loss to D plus from Hanwha Life, I felt like that one was it was like hard for me to watch because it made me feel like Hanwha Life is just not seeing the game as well as them. And I guess to me, it's like I don't even know if Hanwha Life is the top 2 team in LCK. Like I think the top 2 teams in LCK could be just GenG and D plus. Like I think that could just be the best 2. So yeah, we'll have to see if they're able to improve on the things that they're not good at going forward. But yeah, I'd be much more comfortable talking about D plus potentially making first stand over Hanwha Life potentially making first stand.
Yeah, and I guess we should touch on that. We'll do it in Galaxy Brain Club, but mainly because I wanted to talk about teams that took a hit earlier. But yeah, D plus is actually a very exciting team to talk about here in just a bit. The only concern I have with GenG's loss is that it's partially a freak occurrence, and rarely will Chovy and Canyon have stinkers like that. But I feel like it does provide like a framework on how to beat GenG. And oddly enough, Bro is a very good, I would say like a top 3 early game team. Like these guys know how to play early game, know how to rotate, know how to play for these objectives like very, very well. The matches that they've lost, they've made every game that they play interesting up until they don't know how to win. And so I feel like it provides like a playbook for the better teams to be like, maybe we should play some early shit against GenG. And then they kind of panic. And as long as we don't like walk into a death brush or something like that, we can play the game out well. Whereas Hanwha Life, because it's so messy and it feels a little bit more self-inflicted, like who are they playing to? Like how many fires does Peanut have to play out? Like why the fuck's he playing Lee Sin? Never want to see this Lee Sin again. Like I think that feels more solvable and their potential could be higher. Yeah, that's just a small thing, even though it does feel like GenG is the better team now and has like firepower in a way that can only be matched by Hanwha Life later on. So just food for thought as we've talked about it in our LCK circles. Yeah, that's our high key, low key, no key for our one loss or multiple loss contenders for first stand. GenG, high key, Hanwha Life Esports, low key, no key for top esports. Do you agree or disagree? Let us know in the comments below. All right, last segment, y'all. And it's the Galaxy Brain Club. There's so much league. They kicked off of the LTA North and South with our partnered co-streamer, the only one doing it in English, El Dominico, Mr. Rivera. I'm using all of the Spanish names, as well as some of the other matches that we had to watch including some snoozers in the LEC. And let's talk about D+. So Galaxy Brain Club is talking about the best damn league we saw over the last week. Let's get to it. So let's finish the point about LCK by talking about D+. Undefeated, 4-0, draft unshackled. It feels like Bengi and Pumandu have these guys playing fearlessly, and it's a lot of fun to watch in terms of their draft flexibility. Jamada, what have you made about this D+ squad that makes them so dang good?
I mean, for me, like off rip, we've already touched on it, so I'll just touch on it one last time. It's the creativity and the willingness to just kind of play the more out there picks, right? I think the one that a lot of people will be thinking about is mostly the Zillion pick from Showmaker in the DNF series. Muting the Vi, it's something that I think people used to talk about ages and ages ago, the Zillion, like dealing specifically with Vi, obviously, because of the one-man hole. But yeah, I think just the flexibility in their drafts, right? Generally, also picking champions that can go into multiple roles super early and just holding their cards tight to their chest throughout a lot of their drafts too. I think it's made it incredibly difficult for teams to prep. Not only going into a series, but actually just looking at it once you're on stage. And I think that's then also led into very unique sort of game plans where it's like, we know that we are afforded X amount of time to do X thing because we have champions that kind of break certain rules of how the game in the LCK tends to get played. So for me, that's where most of the excitement for me for DK comes, is through the creativity of the drafts and how they're actually executing on it and kind of warping game states.
Dom, what about you, man? Like obviously creativity there, but what else?
I mean, I would just say that like Lucid is starting to just look like a top tier jungler, like a real top tier jungler, and I think we were already seeing part of that last season. I mean, there was like some really big games he had, like the one versus GenG in summer where he played Lee Sin and he completely dominated that game one. They like perfect game them, they broke the streak, etc. Like almost perfect game them, they just completely stomped them. And I feel like now like Lucid is becoming a really scary player because he's one of the players that can play the Nidalee, he can play the Lilia, I think, really well. And then he just has like all the other picks on lock. It feels like he's just really like in a flow state. Like he's confident with how he's playing the game. He is playing generally well in almost every single game. And they're able to play around him. And then also I think that Siwoo is coming in and like playing at a pretty high level as well individually. So I think that you kind of have the mix that you had originally on Dom1, where you have like the insane jungler, like like really insane top laner, and then you have Beryl just being like the mad scientist with the team. And I think that that's something that D+ missed for a while. Like they didn't really have a shot caller. I mean, they were struggling for so long when it came to getting a support that actually was able to like lead a game. And that's why we saw them try Moham and Bible and Kellen, and like they kept on swapping because they weren't able to figure out like what was the formula. And now I think that they're kind of back to like that formula where they all have their individual roles within the team. And I think it takes pressure off like Lucid and Showmaker, where they can just focus on playing the game well themselves, and somebody else is going to take care of the decision making, which is something that Barrel's always succeeded in doing.
Yeah, that was the direction I wanted you to go in terms of the personnel. Beryl playing with aiming feels like it's not a support saying, hey, I'll support you. Actually, I think that's what Kellen does really well. He's like, I'm going to support you. They threw in Moham and be like, hey, I'm going to play make for you. Beryl's just like, I fucking got you. That's Beryl. Beryl will int fucking 9 times, but if those 9 times lead to like 7 fights that they win, and maybe 2 that were like oopsies, he's willing to do that. And aiming is the best cleanup AD carry in the league. Like he is that guy. He was our gold king from last year. They would put the resources in him. He would carry. And then like midway through the split, like the meta changed on Kellen and they tried Moa, like that shit didn't work. I think unlocking that has been huge. And then you've brought in the shot calling aspect that obviously he brings. I want to see more out of Shiwu. I want him to be tested more, and he's gonna get a lot of those. But Lucid and Showmaker is a very exciting and underrated jungle mid duo to watch for the next several years, and we'll see how they grow here. So that was the LCK part. I think that was the main thing I want to talk about there. Let's move towards LATAM. and the LTA South. You co-streamed it. How was the South? Because I did not watch any of it. What did you make of it?
I mean, it was pretty fun. I mean, I think that for me, what I like is I like seeing, all the, I guess, familiar faces in a way that are now playing there. So, I mean, Isserus Estrel, they have Birdall, who played in LPL and then obviously played in LCK prior to that. And he's on a team with Jose Diodo, who also played in LCS for a while. Miru, who we saw on that LLA team a couple years ago. So they have like a roster that is recognizable to me. Seeing like Trimby play in Vivo Keyed, I think that's something that's really like interesting. And then like Thinkart is the coach of Furia, so we're seeing a lot more influence. And just watching those games, I mean, it's pretty fun to watch because it feels like old league to me. It feels like 2015 LCS. That's how I feel. Like the fans are like really passionate. There's a lot of like excitement. The games like stall out around like the macro is way worse than in major regions, but the mechanics are still there. So it's like what I like about it is you could almost see like more out of hype players because they're in more fucked up situations than when like a team is just stomping another team and they just like have complete control. They have good vision and they just like beat the other team because they choke them out of vision and force somebody to face check, get a pick, and just play the game like super stable. So it's just enjoyable for me because it's like it reminds me of like old league. And then yeah, the passion in that region is actually crazy. Like every team has fans. I mean, they showed a viewership graphic where in the LTA or in CB LOL last year, the worst team in CB LOL on average only averaged 20,000 less viewers than the number one team in CB LOL. So like the worst team in CB LOL averaged 150k viewers, and the best team in CB LOL, the one with the biggest fan base, had 170k viewers, which is crazy when you consider about like when you think about that in the context of other leagues, right? Like if you tune in to a T1 match, you're gonna have like 20 times the viewership of like a Nongshim Bro match. Like not 20 times, but it's gonna be significantly more, right? Like it'll be like incomparable. So we see the same thing, in LEC. Like no one wants to watch Rogue. Everyone wants to watch like KC or Koi or G2. All these types of teams. So seeing like the parity in fans, like in fan bases, I think is really insane. But yeah, I mean, it was fun watching. I watched actually a decent amount of CBLOL last year, so I have like pretty good grasp on the region. So I'm enjoying just covering it because it's something that I've just put some time into, and now I feel like I have a really good grasp on like how teams play, like strengths, weaknesses, all that type of stuff. So it's another league that I can like fully enjoy.
So it was 2-1s throughout, except for the red Canids against Fluxo's team. God, Fluxo's a team. That's another streamer organization, kind of like DSG. What was the best match if you have to give one to fans to go watch?
The best match, I mean, the highest quality match was definitely Pain Loud. I mean, but those are like the two best teams in the region for the last like few years. I mean, Loud won like 3 or 4 championships in a row. Then Pain actually beat them last year. That's why they went to Worlds. Pain kept the same exact lineup. Loud ended up benching their support. Well, I don't know if it's like a benching. I think their support just retired, but they have Winsome now on that team, who also played in NA, a familiar name. And then Wiz is playing on that team. And like some people might know who Wiz is. Like he's a player that has played around a while. He played in the LCK like a long time ago, but then he also played on Pain. He played on Kaboom. He was like in EU for a bit. Played on Fenerbahce in Turkey. Like he's been around, and now he's on this Loud roster, and he's replacing Croc, who's the guy who forgot to buy items in that like 2023 MSI, if people remember it. Like the Sejuani just had no items. He like face palmed into the camera. So I think Loud is probably going to need some ramp up time, but I would say that's like the match to watch. And I like that they put that one first because I feel like that's a good way to bring hype to your league. You put like a banger match first, which maybe LEC and LTA North could learn from.
Yeah. Big snoozers for week 1 of LTA North. Real quick, just interesting note here. Loud, your number 1, number 2 team here in LTA South play Vivo Keyed Stars, which means Trimby could be out of the first round of LTA South, which would just be a huge bummer for this guy making I feel like a big risk move, like a risky or just a
think about that. I mean, he could be eliminated. He could be eliminated like on he would be eliminated, which is probably going to happen, right? I expect Loud is going to beat
Yeah.
Key. They looked a lot better. Trimby will probably be out after playing 2 best of 3s, and the next time he gets to compete is if he stays on the team April 5th. So like we're talking like 2-month vacation this early into the year. It's actually crazy.
Yeah, kind of brutal. Jamada, let's go to you with LTA North. Did you what did you catch from the 4 best of series that went exactly as everyone expected?
Yeah. I actively caught the Fly Shopify series. I went back and watched that one specifically because of what happened in the post game interview. So I wanted to know what led Bwipo to those decisions. But yeah, again, all of the series kind of went the way they expected. Happy to see to carry on like the storyline from Worlds 2024 and the GenG series that Fly have come in and they've looked good, right? Otherwise, to me, there wasn't really a lot to talk about because all the series went exactly the way I think we thought they would. I was speaking with Azel last night actually, by chance, and I think that one thing that we kind of both agreed on is we're not super sold on TL, even though they 2-0'd, in terms of their kind of like upper ceiling. And I kind of agreed more on that because I'm not sure how much better they can get with as their jungler. Because to me, he does seem like a bit of a limiting factor in just kind of what you get out of as a player. I'm not to me, kind of does one thing, and it's one thing only, and he's like he's the dog jungler to me, right? And I for what meta we're walking into right now in 2025, that can be good, but I have a feeling we're going to need, as time goes on, a much more versatile jungle pool. That's at least my early read with how things are kind of going with the meta. I think with objectives being way more important, way more frequent, I think it's one thing that TL have struggled with throughout last year and then also Worlds. So that's kind of where I'm at with TL. Otherwise, FlyQuest, I think, came in and did the business, did what they need to do, and the other series went the way that was expected anyhow.
Yeah.
7-year career. What's his most played champion?
Wait, he's been playing longer than 7 years, no?
7-year.
Really?
We
started
might
in
be,
2018?
are we in year
2017. 8 years.
I guess we would be in year 8, wouldn't we?
Yeah, we're starting year 8 here.
Well,
wait, that's not how that works, is it? Wouldn't we be starting year 9 then?
No.
2017,
He
2018?
started in 2017.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
No. We would be maths on air. This is like something from broadcast.
4,
We don't do
5, 6, 7,
do.
8. Okay, yeah, starting year 9.
He's starting year 9. Okay, yeah. Well, I'll take a swing. It seems as he started in 2017 and say that even to now, his most played jungler is probably something like Lee Sin, if I had to wager a guess.
That's right. And then after that, what's his second most played jungler?
Probably like Sejuani or
Sejuani?
Maokai or something.
Yeah.
That's right. So like you get 2 umpties. You get Playmaker on Lee Sin, and after that it's Dog Sejuani, Dog Poppy, Dog Maokai. You got Xin Zhao and Graves in there, but Graves, that was
like a
that was a long time
thing.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's Umpty is so interesting to me because he was so synonymous with these huge plays when Breon were good, were making playoffs when they had an opportunity to do it.
I mean, they made playoffs like what? I feel like he was so synonymous with just like losing. No, like isn't that like what his whole career was? Like it was just like consistently losing.
Yes. Well, when he was on KT, it was okay too. It was the Breon, the 2 years where they sucked, and then the 1 year that they made playoffs. It was on the back of the Lee Sin play, and I just vividly remember that, the general. And it feels like he's now being put in a position to do what the team needs him to do. And he's not as good at that. Maybe he was just never good on playmaker champs other than Lee Sin. I don't know. But I just want to see if he can do it. Can he play the playmaking champs and not just be the dog jungler? He is. Oh my God. Never mind. On Wukong.
Yeah, his Wukong is like, I showed it. I was like, yeah, his win rate is like 10% on Wukong, and It's not like, and he has a 40% win rate career, so it's not like he was playing on a 10% win rate team. But I think that this is actually like the issue with Umti. I think before he was getting covered by the fact that he could essentially just spam Maokai and Sejuani every game. If you look at Summer when they were winning, he was playing Maokai
He played 3
Sejuani
champs,
like yeah, I mean he was just playing 3 champs over and over. And when he did have to play a bunch of different junglers, he wasn't as good in spring, right? Like his Jax would look good at times, but then his other champions wouldn't look amazing. His Nocturne looked fine at times at Worlds, but a lot of the times I feel like Umti is the type of player that just like he'll just make really weird decisions that will stall out games. So I do think that Umti is a super big. I agree that it's a super big limiting factor on TL's roster. Like I just don't think that he will ever be like good enough to just win consistently and like give us a shot internationally. And that's like what you expect from TL, right? Like if TL is not making it like being able to be competitive with with Asian teams at these internationals, I feel like there needs to be a change because like the team is built to do some damage. And I think that we actually on that team have like carry players,
Parts.
North American carry players that can actually play the game well individually, which is rare, right? So you need to use that and supplement it with like actual good imports. And I think that Umti is just he's just not good enough on that team.
Had a couple of debutantes make their debut here in the LTA North. Who were a couple that stood out to you, Dom, good or bad? Please pick at least one good.
Good things that stood out to me.
Yeah, like player that did good things, and you're like, okay, cool, maybe they're elo held, or like, oh, I could see what they're trying to do. Yeah.
I would say that I mean I liked just like the way that are you talking about new players or just players in general?
Give me let's do new players.
New players. I mean, I think that like Saint showed me something in like that game number 2 where it's like, yeah, I mean his like team wasn't doing well, but he was actually like showing that he has like some ability to play. I say Henna as well, like from Lion. Like they kind of looked pretty elo held on that team. I mean the support is playing with like 50 ping from Mexico, so it's kind of unlucky that they have to play like that. But yeah, I would say that that would be something like that I think could be decent for Lion. In terms of like other new players who performed, I thought Surdy looked good. I thought Surdy like had good showing considering like what the circumstances were. Definitely didn't have like easy games to play, but you could see like why he's talented, what he's good at, and thought that was nice as well. In terms of like players that looked bad, like if we
Okay,
go for
now
like
if we go for bad, you can say anyone now. The
Okay,
restrictions
alright.
off.
I mean, definitely Umti. Like Umti's Wukong was just like so disgusting. Like he played so bad. And then also the Lion support Lions. I know he's playing with Ping, but like my God, like he
Even
is
yeah,
he
like
was really insane.
Ping doesn't like cover decisions that were being made by.
Yeah, yeah, he looked really rough. So I'll go with those two for like the rough ones.
Jamada, you can go for both. Either one, no restrictions.
No
You could just pick
restrictions.
bad if you want to, or good.
I was super no bad. I mean, obviously super stompy series, but I was very happy with Busio. I thought Busio had a really
Oh
good
yeah,
opening series.
he
That
looked
was
super
like,
good.
and like, don't get me wrong, it's easy to look good when you are winning. Like very important like kind of standard to set there. But even in the winning states they were in, like Busio just consistently kept on forcing plays that were good for FlyQuest. So I think that would be my good. Out of my bad again. I didn't manage to catch all of the series I should have this week. I will maybe say just drawing from the same series, maybe Palafox. Like Palafox did not look super good. I don't think that weirdly him and Contracts played well together. I don't think Contracts had much to do in that series either. And a lot of the things that Contracts did seemed more team cool based as opposed to like Contracts wanted to do the things he did. Like as an example, in the game that he got Skarner, it was like he did 3 camps and then just sat in top Tribush looking for a dive during the lane swap. And it was like he just lost all like possible chance of kind of being relevant in that game in like an already difficult setup, despite like the theory of that draft being pretty good, like outrange with poke, etc. As the Skarner, it's like if you take 3 camps, Ivern gets a full clear, and you sit that far behind for that long, your life is just gonna suck. So yeah, I would say probably Palafox. less so on contracts. That would be my two.
Last little bit here for LTA North here, Dom, because it was one of your videos. I didn't watch it, but Disguised, they made their debut. They get one of the best parts of that Immortals roster in Castle. Abadage's back, a debut for Collegiate Star. I'll throw it out there. Scary Jerry, Vet, Huhi, and XU getting stuck on a new team. How do you feel like they did in their debut?
Well, I mean, I think they did I guess fine for expectations in their debut. I mean, full disclosure, this should be the worst team in the LTA. Like based on the fact that they, have a guest slot, they're not going to be able to, they don't have the money to buy insane players the way that other teams can because of the fact that they are in a provisional slot, so it's harder to sell sponsors because they could be just out of the league soon, right? Like they could just be out of the league, immediately, essentially. So, for me, I think they did okay, but at the same time, the roster doesn't make sense on paper to me. Like I don't understand why they put these players together. It just seems completely random. Like Abadage with XU, like Scary Jerry coming in from I guess he was in academy
Maryville.
technically. He was
yeah.
in Maryville, like collegiate and / academy because they ended up playing like the combination or whatever last year. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like the roster makes sense. It's like you have just a bunch of players that don't have strengths that you would think would cover for each other. So I just feel like it's going to be a very dysfunctional team. I think that they're probably going to have the hardest time improving out of all the teams, just because of who they've assembled on their team.
All right. Well, that was LTA North. Quick picks for you. Dig, DSG. Who you got?
I have Dig.
Jamada.
I'll go DSG.
Woo. And then Leon versus Shopify.
Should be. So I think even though Shopify didn't have a lot to show against FlyQuest, I'm hoping that they will not fall into whatever mind control they fell in against FlyQuest and will at least have the opportunity to play the game. I think that the issues that Leon seemed to have from the bits of the series I caught, came a lot from the support, and I think support and jungle right now very important in this meta. And I feel like at the very least, contracts, as long as he's not told to come and dive top level 3 with like half his jungle still up, probably looks a lot better.
Dom.
Yeah, I echo that. I mean, I think that in general, I think Shopify should probably win. I mean, once again, their support, Lion support is just not there. I mean, I feel like it's so hard to compete when you're not even in the same area. Like you can't even talk, face to face. You're playing in a different circumstance. I just feel like it should be so hard for Lion to be able to compete with how everything is shaped out for them.
I just checked. It doesn't look like there's an update yet, and it's Friday here in Korea. If Lion is going to be in time for the match. It was a one-time exemption, right? It was only for last week that they allowed him to play remote, I think.
I mean, maybe, but I assume that he's not there yet, right? Or they would have probably said something. So he's still playing remote. They're still getting this remote practice. So even when he joins, even if he joins the team for the match, I feel like it's just going to be such an awkward situation.
No, it's for the split. To play remotely during split 1 of LTA due to visa timelines, no alternative.
Yeah, he's not getting here in time. Yeah, he's not getting here in time.
Okay. All right. Well, I was thinking maybe you would make all things equal. Shopify went the replacement route. Leon getting the Lions internet route is what the battle is. So we'll see what happens there next week for the LTA North lower bracket. Finally, let's move on over to the LEC, where Los Gigantes started off the week 3-0, and they go 1-2. So the Los Gigante hype gets cold a little bit. You know whose hype still going? Kalist and K-Corp. Who jumped out at you this week here, Jamada, in terms of the 3-day bonanza that is the LEC best of ones?
I mean, it's very easy answer is Kalist. I want to say their run of schedule for this week was SK, Rogue, and Team Heretics. So like, you know, if you're not winning those games, right? But even in then, I think the level of confidence individually that Kalish showed around a lot of the plays was absolutely insane. There was the one on the mid lane play, the 1v2 against the Rel and Kalista, where he was on Draven, and he apparently, from so I'm told through Chinese whispers, is he looked at specifically at the Kalista's mana and was like, yeah, he's not gonna have enough mana to like cast R, press all the abilities he needs to press to kill me. So that's why he just held his flash the entire time, and it just
I
made
mean,
it
he
look.
did end up flashing later. Like what I didn't
He
understand
did
about
flash
that is
later.
like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
he did flash in the play anyway. So wouldn't it just be better to like flash like slightly earlier than just like
Well, it's
not
like
lose all your
it's
HP?
it's like well, he ended up killing the Callista, right? And I can't recall if the
No,
Rel
he
died.
killed
I
the
think the Rel
Rel.
also died. Oh, was it the Rel he killed? Okay.
Yeah.
But like I think it's one of those things where it's like it feels like ego, but it's like in the context of Callist and first split, rookie, etc., etc., that's the kind of shit you want to see. Like you want to see just like straight raw confidence out of a rookie player. And I think doing like making those kind of plays is like a very good standard to set for like the rest of the year in this case, right? And yeah, just throughout, I think he's just had a phenomenal week. And I think even his like his Ezreal game, it was against Team Heretics, like his overall positioning, like we have the rule is if you're not Korean or Chinese, don't play, or Dragdar, don't play Ezreal. Kalist
Yeah.
positionally played so well that game, I almost wanted to add him to the list. That was how strong to me that game felt. But again, still played a little bit too close to the wall. He was caught out a few times. But again, in terms of like confidence out of a rookie, that's what you want to see off rip, right? That's kind of stuff you can eventually chain down and be like, hey, let's work on things here. Let's like if we're making a play for XYZ thing, confidence, awesome. Don't throw the game for it, right? I think when you're seeing a player play like that, it's easy to mold them a lot more consistently as long as they're obviously open-minded to that kind of feedback.
We also had probably the worst standing of G2 going into El Clasico here against Fnatic, which they did end up dropping. What did you make of this series here between Fnatic and G2, Dom and Jamada? Well, Dom, you can go first.
I mean, G2 versus Fnatic, it's pretty like, I mean, it's pretty rough for G2 because I feel like G2, like a lot of their drafts don't really make sense. And I feel like they still don't like have a very like cohesive way on how to play the game. I feel like they're just trying stuff, right? Because the Giant X game looked a lot better.
Yeah.
But even that draft, it was like not a draft that I think stylistically wins. I think it's just something that in Europe will win. Um, just because no team plays like poke comps really well in that region. So it's really hard for me to like watch these like G2 games because I feel like wouldn't the team just be better if they just kept Mickey X? Like realistically, isn't Mickey X just better than Labrov like he's always been? And yeah, and now they're just a worse team. And I don't really even see like there being some massive upside. Like, is Labrov somehow going to like is there synergy issues with Labrov or is Labrov just worse than Mickey X? Like that's what I'm considering the entire time. And I feel like I'm just always on the train of yeah, Mickey X is just more useful. Like he just provides more for the team. He's on so many waves at the right timing, even though he gets caught out. What he does is generally so good that you'll take a few random deaths for him being so active on the map and providing so much for the team.
It feels like Mickey X is like Barrel, and now you just have Moham. Like that's kind of what it feels like G2 did. What do you make of G2 so far here, Jamada?
Yeah, I mean a lot of the same notes that their drafting has been fucking horrid. I don't even really want to pull punches there. I think their macro has been strange. I think some of it has definitely been from I think that's been symptomatic more of like I think Lebrov's overall performance because G2 normally are very like almost every iteration is very jungle support like focused, and it doesn't seem like right now at the very least Skumond and Lebrov are like clicking as well as like people would have hoped. And on Dom's point, very quickly to touch on it with like Mickey against Lebrov, yeah, like the obvious comparison was, hey, Mickey has high highs but low lows. Labrov was like consistently probably just third best support. Hopefully that can like work as a bridge whilst we kind of sculpt Scumond into the player that we want him to be. And it's still only 2 weeks into the LEC, right? And it's all best of ones. So, you know, I think some of the data is a little bit like air quotes false, but the decisions that they make are still being put out on the Rift there to be assessed, right? And I think, yeah, even to the standard and the kind of the bailouts that we can give them in terms of like the analytical side, they're still not up to the standard and the scruff that you would expect from G2, even with a jungle support change like this.
Sure.
Yeah.
They do get a crack at Rogue for an easier game before they get the JoJo treatment in next week and or in the middle of the week, and then they close it out against Heretics, who I like Carlson. Like he's done some really smart things and looks like a good top laner, but like, yeah, Heretics and Flackett just feels like he's in fucking Elo hell.
He's in hell, bro. Not Elo, he is in hell. Yeah, but I think that is kind of the point of this roster is like, hey,
To put him in Elo hell.
yeah, the point is to put him in Elo hell.
Jesus.
No,
Okay.
I mean they've obviously, I don't know. There's so many cynical ways you could break down this Heretics roster. I don't want to be here all day. To me, it's like cool. Somehow we're gonna make Sheo and Flackett the veterans. And to be fair, Flackett's got some pretty valid like and deep experience as an AD. It's just normally you would want your veteran to not be in the AD slot. I feel like a lot of the time when you're roster building and putting together a bunch of other rookies. Yeah, I don't know. I think if these guys do manage to make it into top 8, which they probably will, I think it's more a testament to how bad Rogue and SK have been playing as opposed to Team Heretics. Not to take anything away from Heretics. I think the fact that they've been able to pull out the wins that they have been great. It's just that, yeah, one of them was obviously against SK, and the other one was this BDS, right? And BDS have looked way worse than I would have thought them to be, to be frank. Even, yeah, I think they've looked way worse. Even though they lost Labrov, and Labrov was a very big part of why they were successful kind of under the hood. I thought losing Labrov for Paris wouldn't have been as bad a downgrade. And then there's 113, which I had far more hope for 113 than I should have. I'll put it like that. Yeah, 113 is not a
Same.
good opening to the year either.
Yep. Yeah, no, I thought he like improved a bit, but he is pretty
Mhm.
bad. Also, like everyone hyped up Paris to me. Every player was like telling
Yes.
me like,
Well,
this
it's
Paris
the
guy is like
off-season
really
stuff too,
insane.
right? It was the off-season
Yeah.
stuff too, because apparently everyone was pursuing Paris from the off-season rumors. I even want to say that he was initially G2's first choice of support as well. It wasn't Labrov, it was Paris first, but then Paris ended up sticking with BDS in the end. Obviously, come from BDS Academy. So yeah, not the best opening from BDS. I will say I'm confident in their coaching staff to make this team at least competent, but I don't think their ceiling is going to be as high as it like realistically was last year. Yeah, which kind of sucks because I think BDS last year deserved to go to Worlds, but obviously by the end of it, the way that the format worked as well, worked against them, and Mad got to go in their place.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, I think this BDS team, like, I don't know, what's so weird to me is seeing like everyone hyped up Paris. Like, people told me that this guy is just pretty much when I followed up with people, they're like, yeah, this guy is good. He's just like mega choking. He's just mega choking on the stage, just playing way worse than normal. So we'll see if he's actually able to like get over like the mental aspect of playing pro, because I think a lot of people underestimate it. And just some people have the ability to still play like themselves. I mean, we see Kalist like pretty much showing up and playing exactly how people expect him to, and you see other people just playing way under their level. So I guess we'll have to see if that's something that's like fixable, or if he is going to be a long-term project, because other players have had the similar thing, right? Like people told me that Labrov was super good when he started, and for a while Labrov was just like at the bottom of LEC, wasn't looking good, and then eventually he was able to become better in that aspect. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting to see like how, for me, all the BDSA players are just failing in comparison to what people thought. Like this team dominated EU Masters. People thought, oh, this team is doing so well in EU Masters and like, just dominating LFL and stuff like that. They must just be like actually like good players. Like apparently I was hearing that they would be like people were saying, oh, this team would be top 5 in LEC if they were in the LEC. People were saying this like last year because of apparently like how well they were doing in scrims. And now we see all those players and they're all like fighting to be like they're fighting for bottom of their role.
I wanted to make a quick shift on over from one of the French organizations, Spanish organization of Mad Lions Koi. Just kind of how you feel like they've played together, how JoJo's done so far, because so many of the North American fans who don't tune in just want to know how the boys doing.
Wicked.
Jamada.
Big fat smile on my face when the transfer was announced and confirmed, and he's living up to expectations so far. I feel like he's top end mid laners, no surprises. He's managed to get a few Yone games in as well, and he's looked pretty good. There's not much to feed back on. I think expectations are being hit, and overall Koi are just playing really well as a unit. And I think that was always going to be an established thing coming from last year to this year, because Frescawi was not really a big piece in the success of the Mad Lions roster last year. So seeing Koi come in now with JoJo, they're just objectively a better team.
Yep. Same team, same philosophy. I mean, I think Alvaro is just performing once again as like one of the better supports in LEC. And I think that also the like Mbessa being in the game is good for a player like Merwin. I think that he's much better on stuff like that than he has been on, things we saw him out on Worlds, like the Narc, Asante, Renekton, like these types of champs have never been like super good for Merwin. So yeah, I feel like the team is pretty good. I think they're one of the best EU teams currently.
And then finally, going back to where we started with Karmian Corp, I feel like we gave our flowers on over to Kalist, but Yike has had a pretty solid start. Kana has had a pretty good start. I feel like if you go down the list, who else has stood out to you on this roster, or like, has it all been like, sharing the accolades here for you, Dom, in terms of Karmian Corp?
I mean, just Kalista has been the standout to me. I think everyone else is performing pretty much as I expected them to. I mean, I thought the players were pretty good. Maybe Targamas is outperforming my expectations slightly, but I thought he'd be fine in this team. I don't think he's like a solo loser if the team is fine.
Yeah, for me as well, like quick small point, the gambit of holding on to Targamas for all of 2024 to have him pair up with Kalista is finally working. Because that was always the plan, seemingly, was like, yeah, we have upset for 1 year. If it works, it works. But like Targamas was always supposed to be Kalista duo. And they just look really good whenever they get to play their 2v2 lanes and there's no lane swaps. So yeah, happy camper. I think, yeah, like Dom said, they're all playing to expectations. And with Targa, it's like he played so poorly individually last year that it's actually just nice to see him, show up and be present and fulfill his roles out nicely.
All right. Well, final thoughts on LEC before we close the show, Dom.
I mean, I think it's fine. I think that once again they're struggling from the fact that the bottom teams are just like so bad and unwatchable.
Yeah.
Like you have a very clear top 5 and a very clear bottom 5 right now. I think that that's one of the things that has kind of been an issue for LEC in the past.
Jamada?
Yeah, same here. I would maybe extend it to I think it's like a 6-4 divide as opposed to a 5-5, but otherwise, yeah, like the fact that Rogue and SK are as bad as they are, and then Heretics have come in with the project that they have, it's making the top side of the table be a lot more weighted up there. It's like this three teams 5-1, and then Giant X are the only team 4-2. So yeah, I think between the like mixture of them being bad, a few rosters playing a little bit better than we thought, yeah, it does make for a lot of stinker games, unfortunately. But I think once we move into the playoff portion of the format, the league just gets objectively better without Rogue and SK being present.
I mean, also I'm kind of a hater of fearless draft to BO1s. I don't really like the idea of fearless BO1s, which is something that LEC is the only league that decided to do. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, big matches next week are Los Gigantes against Fnatic on Sunday. On Monday, you get Fnatic again doing action against Carmine Corp and G2 against Movie Star Koi. Let me correct myself, Movie Star Koi, not Mad Lions Koi. And then on let's see, so that's Saturday's match. That's Sunday's match. Okay, Monday's match is kind of
sleeper.
shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of shit.
And
So.
SK rounds out the day.
let's just hide that one on the back end. They might have tiebreakers. Who knows? So might get to see more SK at the end.
They don't have tiebreakers. That's what I'll say about that.
Yep.
All right. Well, with that, that is this week's episode. A lot of matches this week went according to plan. A couple of surprises that we covered. This upcoming week has potential for spoilers and some surprises. LPL still off for another week as they celebrate the Lunar New Year break for them. LCK is back for the final matches of the group stages, even though Elder has already won the group. There are a couple teams in Baron that might get knocked out. And then LTA North has their big matchups as the 4 teams that have the highest potential to representing the region do battle in their best of 3s. Thank you so much for watching. Support the Ruddy Sack as they make their miracle run through the lower bracket, and El Domenico is going to lose all of his hair as he continues to try and steer that team towards success in 20 minutes of draft prep. Any final words from you here, Dom, or where people could catch you this week?
Yeah, I'll be doing LTA South and North again this week. I might wake up super early, or I might even stay up for GenG T1, so we will potentially do that as well. And yeah, I'm just going to be covering leagues as I always do.
Jamada?
Actually, in 25 minutes on the NLC broadcast for the first day matches.
Sorry.
No, it's fine. Yeah, it's the other half of the league, the non-content side, I suppose. Which I guess that Nord is like a content team. They've got no way for the American listeners. I guess they maybe won't know so much about that the whole project, but still very fun team, and kind of like the third leg of all of the content stuff going on in the NLC. So yeah, there in as soon as this podcast is done.
Yeah. All right. Well, then let's go ahead and call it there. Thank you to all of our friends that are returning back on in. I think this is the first episode. Last week's was the first episode where the G2 entity did not respond. So I'm calling you out right now. Very disappointed. You know who did respond to me? The social media manager of Los Gigantes. So maybe there's a new favorite in the LEC. I don't know. We'll find out. Maybe they comment this week. Make sure you do, and like and subscribe. All the things we do here at Last Free Nation. We'll see you next week for more Power Spike action.